you're watching Build, please give it up for the incredible Jonathan Groff and Holt McCallany. Just before we get into it, just to let you know, if you're watching this live, you can tweet us your questions. It's at Build Series LDN. And of course on Facebook, make sure you put your comment or question in the comment section under the video below. Guys, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
How's it going?
For having us.
Fabulous.
Fabulous. Now this is like your last London press thing, right? Yes.
Yeah, we've been here since
Saturday.
Since Saturday, and this is our final moment.
So we should make this one count, like
Absolutely.
proper count. All right, awesome. So it's going to be an amazing
I have a feeling if anyone could make it count, it's you.
Oh, so much pressure right now. Okay, I'm going to ignore that.
Is that thing on?
Is that on? Yeah, it's working.
Testing.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Ooh, that voice. Nice. Very nice. Okay, before I get sidetracked by voices, let's talk about the new Netflix series that you guys are promoting, Mindhunter. It looks amazing, but for those of us that haven't watched it, what's it about?
It's a period piece set in the late 1970s about two FBI agents who interview convicted serial killers to try to understand their motivations in the hopes of preventing future crimes of a similar nature.
So nice and light, you know, Friday. No, but it is. But why did you guys choose to do this series now? Why now? Is it like, you know, at this point in time, what attracted you to making it?
I think, the thing that attracted me, first of all, was David Fincher's name. I'm a huge fan of his work, as I'm sure a lot of us in this room, and perhaps you at home are.
Like it. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I like
That was
it.
good, right?
Yeah, very good.
And so any opportunity to work with him, I was going to jump at. And then reading the material, it was dark and complicated and interesting and fascinating. And that material paired with that director on Netflix seemed like a no-brainer.
Yeah, amazing. And this is going to sound like a bit of a weird question, not one that you'd ask at the pub on a Friday night. But how much did you guys know about serial killers before you went into it? Because there's a lot of serial killing going on. How much, was it completely... Because, you know, the subject matter is so intense. So, did you know a lot? Little? Nothing?
I did not. I was not a serial killer aficionado.
Okay. I always wanted to check.
But it is like no. But you're right. It is a thing. There are people. It's a cultural obsession.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends are obsessed with serial killers, and there's podcasts and movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot through the process of this show.
Amazing. And Holt?
Yeah, I mean, for me it was pretty much the same, and the fact that we're dealing with the real cases, right? The real guys. Yeah. All the famous serial killers that you will remember will be people that we will interview as the show goes on. So you have to really familiarize yourself with them and with their crimes and with their histories and the details of their lives. So, you know, it's a lot of research, you know, because we're also a period piece. And so it's a different social and political context. So, you know, we've been, you know, just really doing a lot of studying about these guys from the time that we signed on.
When you say studying, are you reading
Yeah, well, you know, the book is, the television show is based on a book called Mindhunter by a very famous FBI agent named John Douglas, who was in the behavioral science unit at the FBI. The character that Jonathan plays is sort of loosely based on Douglas. I'm loosely based on a guy named Robert Ressler, who was his partner. And what these guys did was they interviewed 36 incarcerated serial killers and did a very kind of exhaustive study, you know, on their history, their psychology, the nature of their crimes, their signatures and stuff like this. So it was very groundbreaking at the time. And, you know, Mr. Douglas has written 15 books, Mr. Ressler wrote 5 books, and then there's volumes of material that has been written about all these famous serial killers. So when you get under the hood and you start to say, I'm gonna try to learn as much as I can about this subject, there's just an enormous quantity of stuff out there.
But you didn't go out and speak to people that are currently serving time for...
Oh my God, that would be so fascinated to do
Yeah,
that.
no,
but no.
you know, that's something that can happen. Some of the guys that we're dealing with, I think, in potential upcoming seasons are guys that are still alive and that are incarcerated and that you can go to visit. I mean, we did get to spend, you know, I got to meet with guys that were currently in the BSU, and John Douglas is also a resource, you know, for us and answers questions for us and is very helpful in that respect. So we met with the agents. But not the killers. But I like the way you think. It's really fun to meet the killers.
I mean, if you want to get them on the show, hey, I'm not going to stop that. So, don't know what I'm pitching right now. Anyway, but let's talk about the episodes themselves. So in the second episode, your character speaks to like a notorious serial killer, Edmund Kemper. Is that right?
That's correct.
And the conversation is fascinating, just watching it. For those of people in the audience and watching at home, just a very quick, as quick as you want to make it. Who is Edmund Kemper? And why does he feature in them?
Ed Kemper was called the co-ed killer, and was in jail in Santa Cruz in 1978. And we're in Santa Cruz our characters are doing road school. And through one of the cops in the town, says, if you're gonna if this is your idea to go and talk to people that are incarcerated to perhaps glean insights, the person you have to talk to is Ed Kemper, because he loved talking to the police, and I'm sure he'll love talking to you. And so I do the first interview with him, and then Bill Tench and Holden Ford go in together and speak with Ed Kemper.
But he's done some pretty nasty stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like, really nasty.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because he started killing co-eds, and it's sort of the perfect first serial killer for the conceit of our show and for the characters to meet, because his mother, who he had issues with, taught at the college, and so he kind of worked his way through these he like resented the college girls and started killing them first, and then worked his way up to killing his own mother and putting her vocal cords down the garbage disposal.
I mean, yeah, Wednesday morning.
He felt a lot of resentment because these college girls that his mother was so fond of, he thought, would never look at him. He could never get a date with them. She used to say, you could never get a girl like that. She used to sort of like belittle him and humiliate him. Yeah. And so he exacted a terrible revenge.
And the stuff that he does after he kills them is pretty grim too.
Buries their heads in the back garden, tilted up, so they look at the mother's bedroom window, because he said that she always liked to have people looking up at her.
Wow. Amazing and disturbing all at the same time. But that scene that plays out, though, you're having a regular conversation. It's like you guys are ordering sandwiches together, or he orders a sandwich for you.
Right.
And like it's a regular conversation, right? I mean, he's plays his part very well.
Yes.
But you come away with it, and the conversation that you have later on in the car, you're like, but he's not crazy.
Yeah, which I think is kind of the mission statement of Mindhunter, was that David, one of his goals was to do away with the kind of romanticized version of the serial killer and look at these people as the sad, messed up human beings that they actually are. And so in that scene, in the Ed Kemper scene, one of the things that I find so fascinating about it is we are sitting there having just finished a egg salad sandwich, and it kind of just feels like two people meeting.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he'll start talking about something, and everything comes into extreme focus about exactly who this person is and what he's done. And it's an interesting tonal quality of Mindhunter that I think separates it from a lot of the other sort of serial killer genre films and television shows, is that we're looking at them as these human beings.
Absolutely. And did you both feel like after you finished research and filming, did your perception of criminality change, like mental health and how we view them? Did it change? Did it shift? Because your characters shift.
Yeah, I mean, one of the questions that we ask on the show is the famous nature versus nurture argument. So are these men who commit these terrible crimes, is there something wrong with them from the very beginning? Or is it a question of the way they're abused as children and the environment that they grow up in, the lack of a mother's love? Very often it seems to start with a problematic relationship with the mother. So that's really one of the themes that we explore on the show.
And just sort of bringing it back, I guess, to current day, if you look around now, that was set in the 1970s, right, when the FBI didn't have any sort of system of behavioral framework to look at these guys with. 2017, do you think we're still looking at people that commit similar, are we still viewing them with the same frames, mad, killer, and we don't view them with that sort of human quality, I guess, that the show is trying to bring across? Do you guys feel that?
Well, I think that, like we spoke earlier about the cultural obsession with serial killers, I think in one sense there is this fascination and obsession to understand how could someone possibly do that. So I think that sense is still there, and that started in the BSU with John Douglas at the FBI. I also think that when you look at serial killers, I think we're all so repressed. And so looking at serial killers is a great, safe way to talk about violence and sex when it's someone that's so far removed from who we are. And so I think it's a way for people to talk about those two things in a way that is safe for them.
Okay, I have to ask you this. It's pretty grisly. I jumped at quite a few places. How did you guys switch off from it when you came home? When you switched the light on in your house or flat or whatever, did you feel scared? Oh, go on, you can say yes if you did.
No, you have to be able to do the work and to immerse yourself in the subject matter, but you can't let it really affect your day-to-day life. It's almost like a doctor who has a lot of patients. He knows that he's going to lose one of them, eventually. You're not going to save everybody, so you can't get so emotionally invested in every single patient that when one of them dies, you can't carry on with your day. You still have work to do. So even though you're reading about all of these grisly crimes, and as I mentioned, there's a lot of reading to do because we don't only meet Ed Kemper over the course of our show, we'll meet many of them. You're sort of immersed in it all the time. The research is endless. So you're reading up on one of them, and then, oh my God, we have to start, do you know what I mean, researching the next guy. So you don't really have time to wonder, if you're going to be the next victim.
Really? But come on, it's work, right? Not everybody in here can switch off from work. I don't have the easiest time sometimes switching off, and there must have been. What about you? Did you feel like?
This may be twisted and weird of me to say. Maybe this is a reflection of who I am deep inside, but I loved, the serial killer scenes for us as actors were so rich.
Yeah.
There was so much in those scenes to play because Ed Kemper is very vocal, but then we have to find tactics in order to talk to the other serial killers. So it's ingesting their stories and at the same time doing the math of trying to figure out how to get them to talk, and then we have a whole dynamic between our two characters that gets complicated. So I loved acting it so much that I left those scenes feeling hyper and inspired.
Wow.
Not but
nice.
But it's such rich material, and
sure.
it's so rare that you get to sink your teeth into stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just to do one thing I'd just say to follow up on that is that, when we talk about sort of humanizing these guys, it's not because we're necessarily advocating that you should have empathy for them or something, but it's the idea is to try to show them in as authentic a way as possible, to be honest about who they were, and what they did, and what we know about these guys now because of the interviews, because of the trial transcripts, because of things that they've said, and so instead of, as Jonathan pointed out, giving you kind of very romanticized Hollywood, kind of comic book villain serial killers.
Amazing. And before we go to audience questions, I have to ask, you both can sing. Come on. No. I have to ask. So on set, was there any singing going on?
There was.
Oh, was there?
My mother was a famous nightclub singer in New York, and and she used to sing all those beautiful old songs by people like Cole Porter and Harold Arlen, Rodgers and Hart, and Stephen Sondheim, and they did a little memorial for her after her death. And they asked me to sing, and so I asked my friend Jonathan if he would do a duet with me because he's an amazing singer.
Yes,
if you
of course.
Did. And so we did a song called "That's Life,"
yeah.
which was made famous by Frank Sinatra. It was one of my mother's favorite songs.
Wow.
And do you want to tell him what happened?
Come on, how did it
Holt,
end?
yeah, Holt was like we had a session in Holt's bathroom with his voice teacher on Skype. And which sounds way dirtier than it actually was. And we were practicing, and Holt was like, really, and I was like, Holt, it's gonna be great. Like, it's gonna be great.
Thank you for doing this,
Yeah, no,
Jonathan.
just-
this
yeah.
is so nice of you, man.
So
I
that-
really
I was
appreciate
like,
it. You're such a great
it's
guy.
just gonna go over so well. Like, you sound amazing.
And you're such a pro. He's been nominated for 2 Tony Awards on Broadway.
Okay, what happened?
And then we got to the actual event, and I completely messed up the words.
He forgot his words.
What did you sing?
I was just nonsense. And Holt was like, okay.
Wow. Okay.
At his mother's memorial.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really
and
bad.
you're still friends?
But we are still friends.
Great point. He's forgiven me?
Absolutely, yeah.
Nice.
People were laughing. It was a lot. It was fun.
So, but no singing on... no singing on set, though? Was...
Yeah, we would sing. We would sing, yeah. Yeah,
Did you
we
just
would
break
sing.
into song during, like, a killer, scene? You were like... No?
No.
Okay.
No, I never did that.
Okay.
No, but
I
we would
would. If I could
sometimes,
sing like you, I
when
would.
we were in the car sometimes and we were between setups, we would, sing Burt Bacharach. Okay.
Amazing. Okay, audience questions. We should ask. First question, who's got it? Go for it.
Hi, so since you guys play partners on TV, do you have any other favorite TV duo partners from...
That's a great question. The older cop, younger cop device is something that we've seen in a lot of Hollywood films, and some of them are some of my favorite films. The obvious one is Seven, which was directed by David Fincher, and of course starred Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt. And they were tracking a serial killer, famously played by Kevin Spacey. But there are other examples too. A wonderful movie called Colors that starred Robert Duvall and Sean Penn, sort of cops in L.A., directed by Dennis Hopper. And a film I like where there's a similar dynamic in a certain way was Training Day, with Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke. So, we've seen this dynamic in the past, but the thing is to try to keep it fresh and make it, you know what I mean, and not really borrow, do you know what I mean, from other famous, partnerships of this kind. And so what Jonathan and I tried to do was find the humor in the scenes between us, because we thought that would be a nice juxtaposition for the audience, given the intensity of the interview scenes with the serial killers.
Amazing. Who's got the next one?
The whole piece is quite serious, but was there any kind of funny or embarrassing moments while you were filming?
I know of one.
Ooh.
Well, we have so much fun together, and I don't know. Sometimes, the long hours of filming, when you do a television show, it's really, you're there for a long, long time. And our shoot was the better part of 10 months. So 10 months is long, and for a lot of it we were doing 6-day weeks, and you start to get a little loopy, do you know what I mean, as the days go on. And there was a day when Jonathan and I started laughing, and we couldn't stop. But it really went on and on. And, David Fincher has a sense of humor. But there does come a point when we gotta go back to work now, guys. Do you know what I mean? The laughing has got to stop. And so finally we couldn't stop.
Because it's that thing where like it's like you start laughing, and then the crew starts laughing, and everybody thinks it's really funny, and then the crew stops laughing, and that's when for me it gets really funny.
But Jonathan, and then I managed sort of to stop, kind of, until I looked at him again, and and you were laughing so uncontrollably that I couldn't stop it. So finally David said, "Jonathan, take a walk. Go walk around the studio and come back, and then we'll begin again."
And it kind of worked. Yeah.
Nice. Love it. Well, it just sounds like you guys had an amazing time making it as well. And the series honestly looks incredible. Out on the 13th of October.
Yeah, it will be this Friday.
And you can binge watch it all night long, right?
Absolutely.
Amazing. Make sure you guys watch, click, and find out more about it. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It's been such a pleasure having you in studio.
Thank you. You're incredible.
Absolutely.
Jonathan and Holt, everyone.